Hey, what up guys, it's Sick, and today we're going to do the video for MQ2 Wizard. So just like every other time we do a release and we talk about anything, we talk about how long it's been in the works and all that jazz. Wizard is no different. We had a few delays in releasing stuff just because of all the changes and things that have been happening with EQ itself. Always ends up pushing us back. We don't like releasing anything in and around suspensions or anything like that, just because it feels real bad, like, hey, there's this new thing and then people are getting suspended. So fortunately, things are pretty good right now with EverQuest itself, so we're gonna check this bad boy out. So let's load this for the first time. Boom. We load up, we see all of our spells just like we would any of the other ChatWithThis name class plugins. Now today is March 14th, 2024. As with all of these videos, this is kind of a time slice, a time capsule, like a singular point in time. There are some things that look a certain way today that may look different literally at the end of today or tomorrow, or by the time the pre-release is, or a month from now or 2 years from now may be different. So it's just a guide. You can always check the updates. Updates has all of the information in there. But let's hop into some of this stuff. So as usual, when you load the plugin, it spits out all of the information of the spells we use. It shows the mod rods that we add ourselves. This tune itself is not a particularly great tune. He's real scrubby. He's wearing like snowbound and stuff. But excuse me. Oh, I have bronchitis again. Okay, so like normal, when you load this, it spits out all of your stuff. It tells you the whatever cool stuff it added. For the add clickies, tells you any add clickies that you have added. And let's hop into some of the stuff. Now, I'm going to skip the settings tab just for a moment. Ooh, do we want info or portal? Portal works just like MQ2 Druid. You can put in here things like gate, you know, and you'll see what type of gate you have. It's a push AA, self, or self AA, gate, and teleport. We can display the background and key and missing spells button and all that stuff. So we got this cool old wizard dude here, just chillaxing. We shouldn't be missing any. Oh, I am missing some. Okay, and I am missing some. One of the reasons why I wanted to use a scrubby tune is I wanted to have stuff that's missing so you can kind of see the full experience. So we have the button here on the portal tab that we can check our missing portal spells, and it'll output the name of the spell itself and what zone they go to. So these should all be correct here that I'm missing. And I paused the video for a second to just double check that I had it right, because I actually thought this tune had everything. And if I click and I go to my Velius portals, I have Great Divide, but I don't have like Cobalt Scar 2, for example, which I thought I did, and those would be here. So you can see those are missing. That's pretty cool. But we'll do stuff like check our group spells, you know, populate all this. Esianti, Elsenium, Cobalt Scar 2, Shadow Valley. And we have here where you can see the short zone name in the button itself, and then the tooltip shows the long name. So you can see Cobalt Scar versus Cobalt Scar. This is Cobalt Scar 2 versus Cobalt Scar. So that's cool. Plane of Time, Lorian's Inn, Shade Weavers, etc., etc. So that's pretty sweet. I normally don't display those because I know what these are. Or self. I need to change these uppercase in Esianti, it looks like. But let's see. We have key. So we have self AAs, excess abscond, and gate. Self AAs. It's pretty cool. Group AAs, Exodus. We have push. Then we have translocate. And then something like anchor, right? So there's a teleport primary anchor and a primary anchor push. Now these are both pushes, but they're different, right? One does allies and friends, one does like your group or whatever. Excuse me again. I have this stupid bronchitis. One of the reasons why I've delayed doing this video last week and this week is because of this bronchitis, but I need to get this out and done for you guys. Okay, so again, the portal works pretty much as you would expect it to do. The slash commands also work, where you can type slash, whiz port self, gate or anchor or whatever it may be. But a lot of people are gonna probably pretty much use this to do those kinds of things here. All right, so let's hop into some other stuff. So recently we added on the info tab, we added a missing tab. So if you have any missing spells, it's going to spit out here and tell you that they're missing and that we want you to go and get them. If they are on here, we want you to get them. We're going to go back for some of the other classes that we have and kind of level gate some of the things that it says you're missing, because some old stuff you do want to get. Some stuff doesn't upgrade, some stuff that's the last one of its kind, and you do still use it even at current tier. Some stuff you don't. So for example, for Wizard, there's a few spell groups in here that end in like the 50s or whatever, and we don't want you to go and buy those because we don't want to use those. We also just added spells and discs tab. So this is actually in right now for everybody, but this is the first time I'm talking about it. So this says what spells you use. So it says your level, it shows the icon for it, shows our spell groups, and then it also talks about type 3 availability. Now, these are going to say either if there's one available, like one exists. If it's a quote-unquote high priority, we're gonna say it's high. If it's situational, like AoE, or like Monk has one, which is tank situational, it'll say tank for this field here. And then if it's green, it means you have that one. So, for example, I have the Ray Facite Shard Claw of Ankexfin. I have that, and I have this one, Ray Facite Shard Ethereal Immolation. So these are green because I have them. So I can look at this list and get like some suggestions. These aren't going to be the definitive end-all be-all lists. They're going to have like what a lot of people will go for, but so much stuff is so situational. Some people will find, if you're a priest class, some people will find healing stuff redundant, and they would rather have type 3s for DPS instead of healing because maybe they're manually playing a lot or whatever, and that's just what they choose to. So these are just a suggested thing. They're not going to be for everybody. They're not going to be like the definitive end-all list. Like, oh, sick, you said Ethereal Immolation, but that's actually really stupid. We hate that one. We like using Flash Roast instead. Okay, well, there's not a Flash Roast type 3, so good luck, my friend. Currently, this only has LS in it. Some classes have previous from LS, like NOS or whatever. Classes like Shaman, who use multiple tiers of Reckless, or Clerics who use multiple tiers of their Contraventions and Interventions, etc. You can actually click on these two and see what your actual spell is, which is pretty sweet. This you can mouse over and see what the item is called itself. You can't click it, there's no link because you don't have the item, and we might end up doing some integration with ItemDB, so we can do that, but in the meantime you can just mouse over and see what the item's called. So just like normal command spells missing, frequently asked questions, these will also be on the board as always. We have the portal. Let's hop into the settings. Settings are pretty straightforward. Wizard is a pretty straightforward class. They have some nuances, but there's not a whole lot of like super weird, tricky stuff. They do have a lot of spells. Like, for example, if I pop this bad boy open and go to like cold, look, this list scrolls. If I go to fire, this list scrolls. Unfortunately, a lot of them are absolutely dog shit useless, like absolutely useless, which is a shame. And I'm not actually real sure why they even exist, and they keep getting updated if they're not used. And if you go to the Wizard Discord, you'll see people argue all the time about stuff that is useless, and a lot of those guys are pretty good with the math that backs up on why it's actually useless and why you should use something else instead. But if they ended up making some changes to various AAs, then stuff becomes viable. A lot of the guides still have the progressive spell being used, even though the general consensus is, and current tier don't use the progressive spell, so we don't have it in our lineups. But all this stuff is normal. We have 2 loadouts. We have a fire loadout and a blend loadout. We were originally going to do like fire and then like a ice or like a magic or whatever, but it's not really how like things roll these days. So there's not a whole lot of difference. Right now with this setup, the difference between the blend and fire is literally just Claw of Ankexfin or Claw of Ingot. Excuse me again. Unless if you turn on AoE, then it's a matter of, you know, Glare Flame, Self-Incineration, Cremating Beam. If we do blend, then we're doing, you know, then we're loading up other stuff instead. But this seems to be pretty, let's see, blend. Yeah, not a lot of ice in the blend, except for the claw. So kind of pretty much the same, really, just with minor differences. As with the other loadouts and the other ChatWithThis name class plugins, you can always do a BYOS or BYOS custom. We really tried to keep these spell groups as trim as possible. Just because if you look at some of the guides, it's literally like we keep 4 buffs up, and then the rest of the slots we have with nukes. Obviously there is your regular settings, auto assist at. I keep all of my tunes, every single one of them, under every single circumstance, auto assist at 100. I never change it, ever, ever, ever. If for some reason I need them not to engage while the tank is getting them positioned, I use a different raid main assist to not give them a target until the mob's position. But I have them at 100%. I don't want my tank getting punched in the face until the mob decides that it wants to be low enough health to be at 98%. Camp radius chase, blah, 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 all of the normal. New command I'm in. I cranked that bad boy down to 1. I want this thing to pump. Harvest AA mana. So this is going to be your, both for your, where is it? Oh, that's Gambit. Use Gambit. Let me turn Gambit off. This is for your harvest spell. And for your harvest AA, which is called Harvest of Druzel, I think. Yeah, Harvest of Druzel. So that actually does I'll do both. Wait a minute, what's happening here? It's harvest mana. Do I have a harvest AA mana? AA. Nope, I just screwed up somewhere. Okay, so that's just in the window. We're gonna change that harvest. We'll change that. Go to definition. Harvest. Okay, so I went ahead and fixed that. This is harvest mana. This is both for your spell and for your Harvester of Druzel AA ability. So that'll do both of those. We have all of the regular normal stuff all the way up to, you know, use stick. Use AoE changes the loadouts like we saw, and then you would have your AoE count for what you want it to be at. This would actually probably be higher depending on your group makeup, if you have a bard or not. And then we have things like cast fire, cast ice, cast magic. Now these say in the tooltip, will use fire abilities and memorize spells, does not adjust your loadout. Now this is important. There's some, you know, there's some time back in the day where you may end up fighting a mob that you can't use fire, either because they're resistant to it or because you don't want to, you want to use something else. So this allows you to turn that off. It's not going to change your loadout. You're just not going to cast them. So if you, let's say you're doing a special event, you're in BYOS, you have something that right now you have to cast a magic spell, you can turn off the ice and the fire, and it'll only cast magic spells, you know, and then swap them around, and then you want to do fire or magic, whatever. This just allows you a little bit more flexibility. This will be particularly useful for people on TLP or people at lower level stuff. We have used damage shields. This is fairly low level, so it's probably unlikely that you're going to do this. This is like the O'Keel's whatever of whatever fuck. It is called, yeah, O'Keel's Flickering Flame, O'Keel's Embers, and O'Keel's Radiation. So this does that. It'll cast it on your MA. You might want it. Okay, we have use defensive rune and use rune. So there's two separate runes. You can only use one at a time. So if you can click both off. If you try to click both on, it's going to set the other one to off. So if you click these, if I click on use rune and use defensive rune as on, it's going to turn it off. But I can turn them both off if I didn't want to. Use defensive rune is the one that like strikes out and attacks the things that just attacked you. It has a lower absorption value, but it does that like, attacking the mobs around you, like rooting them and snaring them or whatever. Most folks will probably just stay with the use rune. Then we have use eradicate. This is your eradicate AA, strips buffs off of mobs if they have an offensive buff on them, like a damage shield. Pretty useful, especially if you have like a rogue in your group and you're fighting stuff that throws damage shields. Think about what the damn zone is that in LOS. I got this damn bronchitis. I'm really sorry, guys. With the little fire dudes in the damn cave that do the bullshit. I don't know. I spent a lot of time there, and I can picture it in my head. I don't remember what the damn zone's called. Use Force of Flame. This is your AA Force of Flame. There's Force of Flame, Force of Ice, and Force of Will. And these used to have pretty high mana cost. That's why they were a toggle, but now they're not a high mana cost. And the way that we handle things like that in the plugins, we're just weaving those bitches in between stuff. It's pretty great. Use Gambit, so this will use the Gambit line. That tooltip's wrong. We'll keep Ice Flame up, only works on level 60 spells. So I need to fix that. Use Gambit, we'll use that instead of the Contemplative Harvest. And we have some cool logic in there about how to like manage those things, manage the usage of this thing itself with the charges you get and shit. The tooltip, it says use ice, keep Ice Flame buff up. Spell only works on level 60 spells. There's a really weird ass one-off spell called Ice Flame, and it gives you a buff for your level 60 spells. And so if you are around that level, I think I put it up to 70 maybe. If you're up to level 70, it'll keep that buff up if you have that option turned off. But if you are above that level or outside that level range, then you're not going to do that. Use Mana Burn. We have logic to handle like when and how to use Mana Burn, so that should work pretty well. Use Melee. As always, you can turn off Use Melee if you don't want it, or turn it on if you do want it. Use Reflect. So this will just memorize your Mirror spell, which is like level 98 or some nonsense. Gives you that option to do that thing. It's a long cast. It's like 2-minute cast. Anyhow, let's get rid of that. Use Reflect. Use Rune, we already went over. I'll get rid of that thing. Use Shield of Fate. This is this guy right here. Shield of Inescapability. This thing will actually recast this during combat. Like, this is a thing that helps wizards stay alive. Your healers are going to really appreciate it if you keep this buff up. You can turn that off if you don't want to use it. Use Silent Casting. We'll use it during burns. Some people have some preferences for manually casting Silent Casting, or manually use Silent Casting, so we have it as an option. And then use Swarm Pet. This is like the call of Zuxel or Choozle. Is the X a CH sound? Or a WA sound? It's a WA sound, right? Wuxel? I don't know. The little sword thing that comes out on fire and shit. But this is MQ2 Wizard. It's been pretty great so far. We've had quite a few, not a lot of people play Wizards over the past couple of years because they haven't been great. So, but we have had a few people who do main Wizards in raiding guilds who have played these and given their input on how they, the rotations and the fights and stuff should function. So it should be pretty seamless addition to your Chat with This Name class plugin group. if you do decide to roll with a wizard. Wizards are pretty sweet. Got this sweet ass robe. Look at him. Look how smooth his face is. Yeah. Am I displaying his hat? This is important. Boom. Look at that. We gotta blend in. His loadout is blend. Blending his hair into his robe. Yeah. All the ladies are gonna be sending messages. Like, can I get that number of that wizard? Alright guys, like I said, I'm really sorry about the bronchitis. I don't feel super great, so I'm a little delirious. But that's it. Wizard is really straightforward. We're going to try to have this in pre-release today. And then we'll have it in pre-release for, you know, a few weeks or a month or so before we put it up for sale. Please make sure you are updated if you are posting questions or issues, because, you know, we try to stay on top of issues and stuff. As soon as they're posted, as soon as they're a known issue, we try to get those resolved, so nobody's waiting around. So please make sure you are updated and you did check the previous posts to see if your question has already been answered. But chat with his name and I appreciate you guys very much, and we will talk to you soon.